Fahrenheit, and there he is in his drawers.
The assistant pro said, you know what we don't have in Northern Ireland? Sharks. Yeah. You know what you also don't have here in Northern Ireland? A tan.
He's so cold.
I was going to say, though, that tan, man, that is what I got going on under here. The whole farmers, golfers tan thing.
As if seeing what he had on under there was enough. You had to try to get us to think about you.
Yeah.
That didn't make it better.
There's a lot. First quote. I've been around long enough to realize that guys in our league, we talk about everything in the locker room except for finance, except for money. Nobody talks about money because it's one of those uncomfortable things. Said Chris Paul to The Athletic. So, Bomani, why do you think NBA players aren't talking about money in the way that Chris Paul describes?
Because nobody talks about it anywhere else. It's not like this is a particular place where this is the one world where nobody talks about money. I think his argument, of course, is that they talk about all this other stuff. Why not this? Here's why. There's really not a good way to talk to cats about their money without seeming judgmental or seeming like you pocket watching, right? These are the social things that are at play. But I do think a dude like Chris Paul, because what he's talking about here is he and Joe Smith want to talk about financial literacy. With guys on NBA teams, there are particular situations where the only people in a lot of ways who really understand what they deal with is them. And it's not just a matter of knowing the terms, it's how to deal with your family, how to deal with everybody else that's asking for money. But the answer to the question is, it's bad manners to talk about money.
It is bad manners in most places. This, of course, is a place that is kind of strange in that everyone's salaries are published. And so you'd think, okay, for that reason, maybe there's a degree of transparency, but there isn't for the social reasons you point out. What's weird to me, though, about this is that Chris Paul is the head of the union. And when it comes to protecting players from the predators that encircle them as soon as they get NBA paychecks, historically speaking, the union hasn't been a great force for that. And it's not just because the union has so many other concerns like collective bargaining, go down the line. It's also because if you're the union, you don't necessarily want to be liable for trying to advise players to go this way or that way, because what happens then if it goes wrong? Then they blame you. And so you have a lot of players who are fending for themselves, and that's when communication amongst them actually would be super helpful.
Like, to me, though, the biggest thing is really not so much about, everybody wants to blame the family, and the family can get you. They can take a lot of your money. But the big one is bad real estate deals and bad financial advisors. Because how are you supposed to know how to pick a financial advisor, right? And I think this is something that people go through in their regular lives. You can call Charles Schwab or somebody, whoever you want to pick off a commercial. But in the end, who do you go ask? If you don't know anybody that's really got money, how do you figure out who the guy is to talk to? And even if you got it, I don't know, the vetting process on that is difficult. Next thing you know, dude, I took $20 million of your dollars.
Right? Joe Smith. Ugh.
5. Because Zlatan notched his 5th perfect hat trick in the last decade in MLS. That's a goal with the left foot, with the right foot, and the cabeza. Let's watch that. See the man pull this off in a 3-2 win over LAFC. All right, he also did some celebrating here too. That's the right, right foot.
Yep.
Yeah, he had a little beef coming into the game. He wanted to show some things.
Yeah, Carlos Vela was talking some trash, it
Whoever
seems.
that is, that's the head.
And I love Zlatan, man.
Hold on, we're not finished. We got more.
He's so much better than everybody.
Oh, wow, is that supposed to be some form of karate? You cool with that?
You know what? I'm cool with Zlatan appropriating my culture.
Left foot. Do y'all do karate in the Philippines?
Well, I took karate in 2nd grade. So.
Oh, sorry. The culture of, okay. So there we go.
Blue belts.
Yeah, the left, but look at the angle on this. And slow it down for him. Slow it down for him. Why you got to throw the little dude out the way like that?
That is not allowed, and yet I am thoroughly in favor of it.
Yeah, what did he prove, Pablo?
He proved that we should actually have a new term. That was the, special hat trick, blah, blah, blah. But a Zlatan hat trick involves something else, because there was one other thing that he did in this game that we should absolutely spotlight. And if you do this and all that stuff, that should be a Zlatan.
So we have to call it Zlatan, not a Zlatan hat trick, because it's got 4 things?
I think so.
Okay.
But that is an elbow to the face.
So in order to really make this crack for you, you got to elbow somebody in the face and then call his coach a little B word?
Yeah, you got to call him the little B word, because that is the goalkeeper coach, apparently, who came up and defended that guy who got that.
That looks unpleasant.
That thing, because, that shouldn't be allowed. Except I love Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and anything he does, I'll probably laugh at.
I mean, I'll give him this, man. He's making this like ponytail villain thing work in a likable way that typically is not the case. Like I'm telling you right now, you put that dude right there. Can we get him on the screen right here? We put this dude in the movie. What do you think he's doing? Saving the day or robbing the bank? Like, that's just how they cast things in the United States. I'm not saying he looked like a criminal. I'm just saying if he showed up at a movie set, he'd be committing crimes.
Yes, he has defied the central casting expectations to be the pirate that all of us in America actually are looking forward to robbing us.
He got that case that's hard on the outside, full of money.
In closing, it is often said that the loneliest place in professional sports is the pitcher's mound. But I feel like this guy named Joel Caudle would disagree.
Who?
The guy getting all those punches in his head.
You talking about King Hippo?
Well,
you know who King Hippo is?
I do. Punch Out, speaking of which, that is him getting punched out of the entire ring. And that's where it must feel real lonely. Dude, he gets knocked out of the ring, but is it knocked out?
Oh, is that, what's his name, Rashiki? Is that what's his name? What was the dude's name in the wrestling? They used to be up there twerking on him.
Really?
And he got to...
Rashiki, somebody I can claim, I think, by the way, but this is him back in the ring trying to make it all better, except...
Hey, I got questions. I got questions about you, Mr. Referee. Like, I mean, and I don't really know all the boxing rules, but I feel like if you get knocked through the ropes, it's time to end the fight.
Yes, I feel like there should be a sumo wrestling type of legislation here. If you get knocked out of the arena, you cannot re-enter the arena.
Credit to him, though, because I just stay right there. Like, that would be like the worst hangover. Like, no, nothing feels better than this bathroom floor. There's no more comfortable place in the world than
the
this.
cold temperature of the floor is somehow very soothing for me in this moment. It really does.
Rikishi, by the way.
Rikishi. I should have known that. That's on me. Rikishi. It's a lot.
You didn't have to keep talking. We were going to move on.
I just remember him now.
I know. You're good. You're good. In closing, here's a reminder to print out your health insurance card before you do general admission at a concert, because you never know who might wind up in the mosh pit. And in this case, yes, it's not just some big Shaq-looking dude. It's actually Shaq.
I was going to say that people in this concert would be mad.
Yo, I want a refund right now. Like, I can no longer interact in this space. I don't want any parts of this. And I'm surprised Shaq is playing along, because I might stick around for one reason. And it rhymes with, well, it ain't no rhyme, it's lawsuit.
You just oranged yourself? You just oranged yourself?
Nah, I just couldn't think of something on the fly. It happens on occasion. But no, I'm suing. As soon as I see Shaq, I'm getting on the phone with them dudes that's on cable in New York, the ones that be talking about all the police money they done got. I'm right there.
Do you remember when we went to see Kanye and there's like that mosh pit, man? No mosh pits of any kind, please.
I feel like he got this right the first time he tried it.
But my understanding is that people at the gym hate it when you like sweat all over their equipment. I'm guessing they're not a big fan of this guy in general.
Well, I mean, they're not there. Pablo, we got to talk about this Manny Pacquiao story. Hell, let's add Greg Hardy to it while we're at it. Pacquiao notched an impressive victory Saturday over Keith Thurman. Meanwhile, in a cage somewhere, Hardy was seen licking blood off his fist after he went over an opponent whose name in this moment doesn't really matter. Both Pacquiao and Hardy are very famous. They both have histories that can make rooting for them uncomfortable. Hardy is an accused domestic abuser, and Pacquiao's most known public opinions relate to his distaste for those who identify as LGBT or Q. Pablo, you put on for just about every Asian on this show and his dudes from the Philippines. How do you feel about watching Pacquiao fight in 2019?
Guilty. And by that I mean awful. Because, Bomani, underlying all my jokes about claiming Asians is the reality that we don't have much. And this is the national hero of the flag that is on my cup. And so when I watch him, as I did on Saturday, I see a guy who is better than I've seen him in 8 years. I see him as a guy who is ready to go fight Floyd Mayweather again. I see him as an inspirational athlete. But what he says outside of the ring is horrendous. He says that gay people are lower than animals. He supports a regime that has been accused of and denies thousands upon thousands of executions in its war on drugs. That is stuff that I'd like to dissociate from a hero, but he's also literally a sitting senator. And so I am left feeling like I can't really enjoy any of this that much.
Yeah, I feel like the hero part was the initial mistake on this, and it is a dangerous game, and you're not the first to play it, and people have played this all across nations, which is making heroes out of people who beat the hell out of folks, right? Like, there's something to be said for national identity and boxing and the role that it plays so much, often used toxically, but also used as an inspirational thing for a lot of people. That being said, I admit my standards for boxers is incredibly low. My standards for MMA fighters, incredibly low, because this is what they do. But the thing for me also is I'm not inclined to really watch boxing or fighting and look for somebody to root for. I am there for the savage reasons that most people are there. I'm there to watch people fight, right? So for me, it's not necessarily difficult to watch a Pacquiao or a Greg Hardy fight because what they're doing is fighting. And there's also the chance that somebody might knock the hell out of them. Who knows? Maybe that will be the joy. But I don't have the same attitude about combat sports that I have with team sports or other individual sports that are honestly just a little bit more civil.
No, these are sports that are based around injury and concussion, and they draw from the poorest sectors of our society, no matter what country you're in. These are people who are committing violence as a matter of intention. This is a terrible place to find a hero, and for me, honestly, there's also guilt that I'm from and love a country that looked not only for a hero, but for an actual politician. But now we get to Greg Hardy, right? And it's weird to compare them because the sins are very different. But I do wonder, when you are in a sport that is based around combat, should we just entirely try and disassociate the art from the artist?
Or maybe not look for heroes out of our combat sport participants. Like, I think that's where we get to where we are. Our narrow way that we view sports always requires us to anoint heroes, to anoint villains. Like, we got to have people on either side in order to do this. I think that's where you wind up with the problem. If you're just watching them fight and not attaching values to either one of them, this doesn't become such a terrible thing for you to ultimately pull off and for you ultimately to do. But for me, I've made turns a long time ago with bad people have good things happen to them all the time. I've made peace with this reality. I don't need to find these heroes in the ring, but we got to find a way that we can cover these sports without having to anoint people. Because if we don't have to do that, this gets a lot easier. All right, coming up next, we got Zlatan being Zlatan. You know, dude, the ponytail and the mustache.
With Domino's Carry-Out Insurance, we'll remake your order for free if anything happens to it on the way home, even if it's not your fault. Like if it's whoever that guy's chasing's fault.
He kept them relevant in NFL discussion, but he did not keep the brand alive. But I think his point was, I've been the one thing worth seeing on this team for 5 years, and you don't even let me know that you're thinking about trading me. He joined the long list of people who is done with Dave Gettleman and all that comes with Dave Gettleman. I understand where he's coming from there. I think he's right, but I know also Giants fans will push back about this idea of the brand.
Yes, Giants fans will be in their feelings about this, and Odell Beckham Jr. wants us all to know about the feelings he has, Bo, because he is one of those guys with a NBA player sense of self-expression in a sport that is the most collectivist and team-oriented and the one that likes to stamp all of that out. In this piece, he talks about how at age 24, 2 years ago, he thought about retiring from the sport of football. He thought about how much better it would be to play any of these other sports that he apparently is really, really good at. And it's because he feels like he cannot be himself in the sport that he is actually the most famous for.
Yeah, whatever. I thought about quitting my job last week. I'm still here. Nobody care about you being yourself. Like, that's all thing, I can't be who I am. Ain't nobody trying to hear that from you children. A whole lot of people out here can't be themselves at the job that they're in. Your job does not entitle you to be yourself. And that's where, as much as I agree with so much that he has to say, we get to what makes Odell Beckham so compelling, which is truly that he is the poster child for all these damn millennials. And if you have any sort of older, or shall we say elderly sort of sensibilities, it's hard not to hear him and just be like, dog, come on, man, what are you talking about? But I can't say he's wrong on most of the things that he's saying. And when he talks about the way that he is treated by media and he feels it's unfair, it's yes or no. Yeah, you were a bit immature. There's no arguing against that. That shouldn't be held against you right now. Like, we watched NFL Live before we came out here to do this. They were asking if the drama is going to follow Odell Beckham. Of course it is, because we the drama. We bring the drama when we show up on this stuff. And so I understood a lot of his frustrations while also rolling his eyes at him, because I'm at the age where I roll my eyes at things that people his age see.
And what he said was that he has more Instagram followers than he ever imagined, and also that he is listening, Bo. He is listening to all of this criticism. He name-checked Chris Carter and Ray Lewis as two people he thought were on his side who called him out in critical ways. He mentions going through his mentions and feeling like the entire world is against him, like there's more hate than love, which is all to say that it is very millennial and also kind of human.
I mean, being human is not an excuse. You can be better than that. I'm like Nietzsche anyway. Next up is Kawhi Leonard. Love the idea that he's really Kawhi's associate, but the Lakers and Raptors do not. Per ESPN's Brian Windhurst, the Lakers felt, quote, played by the newest Clipper, Brian reports, and the Raptors felt Leonard asked for, quote, the sun, moon, and stars before ultimately turning down the champs. Pablo, what you got? You think Kawhi did wrong by the Lakers and Raptors?
The Lakers and Raptors can feel wrong, but that does not mean they were wronged. You can have regrets about how things happened without feeling justifiably like he did you in some way that he was not supposed to do from any sort of moral level. To me, the Lakers and Raptors serve kind of the same purpose that the Clippers did. Kawhi Leonard was using all of these teams against each other to get what he wants. That is the power of the modern-day player. That is Kawhi Leonard's power. And if there's any consolation to the Lakers and Raptors, Steve Ballmer also felt like he was having things leveraged over him because what did Kawhi Leonard want? Paul George. This is how he got Paul George.
Yeah, I hate this terminology, though, that we're using about this as though this is some, like, grand power move that he made, and I just don't agree with the idea that that is what happened. What did he get from the Clippers? A better teammate. At least as far as we know. Maybe there's something grand beyond this that has not been reported. But Kawhi Leonard got what he wanted. Paul George? Like, that's like if I go to Santa Claus, and Santa Claus is like anything in the world, I'd love to play with Paul George. No, like, I don't buy it in that way, but I also buy the idea that if Paul George is not acquired by the Clippers, they don't have enough of a roster. And guess what? He probably then goes either to the Lakers or the Raptors. Now, I do think that he was in a place where you ask for the world because the worst thing that they can do possibly for you in that situation is say no. Reality is these other two teams thought they'd done everything they could to get him, and then they could not, and they should take solace in the fact we did all we could and we didn't get him. Instead, I feel like they look at it as we did all we could and how dare you say no to us.
Right, and here's the power that I'm really talking about. It's the power to make one of the men who is one of the 20 richest people on the planet do what you want. He made Steve Ballmer pay the price that Kawhi Leonard wanted him to pay, a price that wasn't good for the Clippers, but was great for Kawhi Leonard. And at the end of it, what happens, Bo? Kawhi Leonard emerges with not a 4-year contract, not a 3-year contract, a 2+1, which tells me Kawhi Leonard got what he wanted. The rest of them, maybe not so much.
I disagree. The price they paid if they win a championship is just fine.
Up next is LSU. Because the school sank $28 million into renovating its football ops building, and they have a first-class locker room to show for it. And by first class, I mean that each locker literally has a seat that also now becomes a bed. Bo, does this sort of extreme college football makeover impress you at this point?
Let me tell you something, man. If they were asking me if I wanted a job here, and they were talking about they were building this new studio, and I walked over to where my desk is, and they said, oh, watch this, and they pressed the button, and they're like, boom, you can sleep here. Why the hell am I going to be sleeping at work? Why would I ever want to sleep at work? You telling me I'm going to be working here so damn hard that I'm going to have to sleep here because I won't be able to make it to my own bed, and that's supposed to be somehow attractive to me for me showing up here? Come on, man. This is craziness. And a reminder, they have $28 million to put into this locker room because they're not giving that $28 million to the players. So instead, they will spend $28 million to attract players rather than put that $28 million in the pockets of the players. That's hustling backwards.
They will also use that $28 million to advertise against the need to pay those players because they get all these sweet beds. That is the clever part about all of this. There is sort of a backhanded way of compensating players, except it's not nearly to the fairness of the value that they actually deserve. They get the beds, they don't get the money. But you're right about this, man. The first time I saw a nap pod was at Google. I was visiting a friend who works there. This is a Silicon Valley thing. Silicon Valley will give you nap pods, they'll give you free food, they'll give you ping pong tables, and in exchange, they expect you to do what? Be there all the time, which is a brilliant plan, except for the fact that those employees are also paid real money.
Hold on. How is this compensating the players, though? Like you say that this is presented as though it's a compensation for the players. no one would think of this as a compensation for themselves. You can only make the argument that this is grounds for compensation if you were talking about someone else. There's a very my son can't eat these plaques sort of element to this.
Sure.
This is not at all compensation. This is a nice office. Like, you don't pay people by making the office nice. And get it straight, that right there is an office. Just because they don't get paid don't mean it's anything else. So anytime somebody tries to position these auxiliary things, whether it be the training table or anything else, or books or tuition as somehow compensation, not a single one of y'all is working for barter system.
No, the thing is, the players are excited, they're just not paid.
Coming up next, is Manny Pacquiao back? That's his man from the Philippines.
High Noon is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And Modelo, a taste that's pure gold. Modelo, brewed for those with a fighting spirit.